to eliminate the barriers of equality for minority groups and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination and poverty. And whereas we join with all Americans in celebrating our diverse heritage and culture and continuing our efforts to protect democracy for all people and recognizing the vital achievements of our local African American residents. And now therefore be it resolved that I do hereby proclaim the month of February 2019 as Black History Month and express special condemnation to the dedicated volunteers who have labored so diligently to make this observance a reality in our community. And in witness whereof, I do set my hand and cause the seal of Winterville to be affixed this 11th day of February 2019. Thank you. Okay, we've got public hearings.
Do we have to make a motion for that approval?
Do we need a motion for the proclamation?
You can certainly do that.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Have a motion?
Second it.
And a second to approve the proclamation. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we've got a public hearing on the Davis property rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. As always, it's a pleasure to be in front of you tonight. So we're just going to give you a little bit of history on this. So the Davis property rezoning request was requested by the owner, John Carter Davis, which is to rezone approximately half an acre located out on 188 Main Street, parcel number 10962. It's currently R6, which is residential, and they're requesting a rezoning to Central Business District. So it's located out on the right at the corner of Main and Mill, west of its intersection of the intersection with Mill Street there. So the notice of the rezoning sign was placed on the property on the 11th of January. Notifications of the public hearing were mailed out to adjoining property owners on January 30th, and the public hearing notice was published in the Daily Reflector on the January 30th and February 6th. So Central Business District, definition of that is the purpose of a Central Business District is to maintain and enhance a compact business area for the retailing of durable and convenience goods and personal services for the surrounding community. So just some, so there's your property outlined in yellow there. There's the intersection of Main and Mill here. So the dollar store here, Main and Mill restaurant here. Just an overlay of the rezoning map. It does show the existing structure up front and the commercial business in the back. So here's the current zoning. So you can see the property itself is R6, surrounded by R6, and on this side, and then Central Business on the rear, and the adjacent parcels in across the street. So existing land use. So this is just the existing what's going on out there. It is commercial based on the use in the back, with that the auto shop back there in the back. Future land use plan, you can see the majority of this area is designated for commercial use. So planning staff, we do find that this request is reasonable. It is in the public interest because the proposed zoning district is compatible with the surrounding land use and the future land use plan. So we do recommend approval to request the 0.47 acres from R6 to Central Business. So just a little process. Planning Zoning Board did unanimously recommend approval at its last meeting, January 22nd. And so now we're at the public hearing. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
It was a pleasure, board.
Make a motion that we accept.
I'm sorry, we have to have a
Yeah, if there are
public
no
hearing.
questions,
Sorry,
It's okay.
jumping ahead.
No problem.
yeah, with no questions, we're ready for the public hearing, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. We have anybody here to speak in favor? Anybody here to speak in favor? Anybody here to speak in opposition? Okay. I'll close the public hearing. Now what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion
Make
approved.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have our public comment portion. We have a couple of folks that have signed up tonight. Before I invite the first person up, I'll read the ground rules, so to speak, as the mayor normally does. The public comment period of 30 minutes provides an opportunity for residents to comment on any item included in the agenda or to address the town council on any other matter related to the town of Winterville. For an item included in the public hearing section of the agenda, residents should address the council at the time the mayor invites public comment on the item. No public comment can be made to the council during the meeting except during the public comment period or as part of a public hearing. Individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers may address the council on a single matter. The town council may elect to take no action on the matter addressed by a speaker, may schedule the matter for further consideration at a future council meeting, or may refer the matter to town staff for disposition. Copies of the town public comment policy are available in the rear of the assembly room. And first one on the list is Gary Whitehurst.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'd like to talk to you about the excessive noise coming from the Moose Lodge during the summer months.
You mind giving your address, Mr. Whitehurst?
Yes, this is 105B Emily Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Whitehurst, would you pull the microphone closer to you?
Sure.
Thank you. Good.
Okay. Yeah, the excessive noise coming from the Moose Lodge during the summer months. 2019 will be my 3rd summer living at Emily Drive. So the police issue permits to patrons who rent the Moose Lodge. So it gets loud. My blinds have actually rattled in between the glass on my doors. It's preventing my daughter and I from getting sleep on Saturday nights, sometimes Friday nights. When I call the police, they say they feel they have no recourse because a permit has been issued to the patrons at the Moose Lodge. The noise ordinance is basically being ignored by the Winterville police. There is a noise ordinance in Winterville, as I'm sure you all know. There's also the permit process. The permit shall not be unreasonably withheld and may contain appropriate conditions, including maximum decibel levels. I've never had anyone even mention going out and measuring decibel levels, but we're talking about 11, 12 o'clock at night. Nobody honors the 11 o'clock cutoff time. These decibel levels are designed to minimize the disruptive impact. Persons shall not be held in violation of this chapter when acting in conformity with the permit conditions, but any permit may be revoked if it is determined that the authorized activity has resulted in generation of unreasonably loud, disturbing sound levels. Now, I've been calling the police for 2 years and nothing gets done. I don't know why they're so reluctant to act when it comes to the Moose Lodge. I mean, I can call the police on my next door neighbor and they'll be right there shutting them down. But when it comes to the Moose Lodge, the police just drives by and keeps on going. Now, I don't know if I have the capacity to ask in this meeting format, but I would just like to know if something can be done about it, if I can ask.
Chief Wilhite, can you speak to that matter?
Sure.
I can. I pulled the last year of operational reports for our call for her service at the Moose Lodge. We responded out 6 times. I've talked to Mr. Whitehurst a couple of times on the telephone. We do have similar concerns about the Moose Lodge. We spoke with Mr. Mosley, who coordinates the renting of the Moose Lodge. It's his guidance to his renters that they come obtain a permit. That's not something that we ask the renters to do. That's part of his procedures. And a word that he used that we have to use as well is reasonableness. On the occasions that I see here, either when the police came, they didn't hear anything at the time, or they did hear something that was unreasonable and outside of the scope of what we would say the permit would be lawful. We asked them to turn it down, and they did so. Or the band was packing up to leave, or different scenarios like that. When I spoke with Mr. Whitehurst, he said sometimes when the police leave, they then turn it back up again, which is sometimes a common occurrence. So our goal moving forward, as after we spoke, we're going to have to be a little more diligent after the warning, because we like to give everybody, including even citizen parties or gatherings that have similar violations, at least a warning first to turn it down. But then we're going to probably have to be a little more stealthful in being close by to see if the violation then continues. I think we have shut one event totally down because they wouldn't comply. But obviously, in Mr. Whitehurst's neighborhood, we're going to have to be a little more skillful in how we detect these violations moving forward.
So they don't have to have a permit.
That-
He requires them, but we do not require
We do not
them.
require them. That is a Moose Lodge. That was my recommendation to him, because he wanted to kind of try to avoid the noise violations, and I advised him, well, one of the conditions of your renting could be that you require them to get a permit. Now, that doesn't allow them to be unreasonable about the volume. It just gives them a little bit of a window to have some audible noise a little bit beyond what would be normal. And obviously after 11 o'clock, that's outside of, and I know bass travels. I mean, we all hear cars that travel around town where a lot of times it's bass. It's not really the volume of the music. It's the thumping of the bass. So,
What do you think that we can maybe send a letter? I know we've communicated, as you've said, verbally, but how about if we were to put that in writing to the person doing the renting, Mr. Mosley, that we want them to be good neighbors, and we realize they're renting the building, but we've had some issues, and we've at least, from a starting point, have something in writing. Can we do that?
yes, sir.
And then we're going to be, I guess you're going to be a little more diligent, and if we're called out there to hanging
Be a little
around.
more sneaky, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay,
We don't want to call it a noise trap, but
I understand. Mr. Whitehurst, you have anything else?
No, I appreciate you hearing me, and I am your mechanism for detection. I guarantee you. I don't call just to be calling.
I
Well-
understand.
When my blinds rattle, that's a problem.
Right.
And he's right, it's only the base. And I don't hold the patrons responsible for it at all. They're renting a venue and they're trying to have a good time, I understand that. But at the same time, they gotta be respectful of other people per this.
Absolutely.
If they were to limit it to 11 o'clock, would that, it's currently limited, it's already limited to 11, okay.
If you want to get an exception after 11, you'd have to then get a permit for that exception.
I don't care if it goes till 3 a.m. if I don't hear it.
I understand that.
Are they constantly going later than 11, or?
The latest I've seen is 1 a.m., but I've seen the police go by and tell them to turn it down or shut it down, and then you just hear a low thump, which,
And again, that references amplification of any kind, so technically they're not supposed to be doing that after 11.
oh, they
without a
haul
permit.
these speakers in about the size of this
Yeah.
podium right here.
After 11, it's not supposed to be any unpermitted amplification without an exception to the.
Well, my question is, who's getting the permitting fee? You just
the
granting a permit.
the
So there's
town,
no fee, or
there is a
$15
fee.
$15, and we collect the fee?
Correct.
Okay.
I will tell you that in other jurisdictions, all amplification requests utilizing, it's usually a building venue the town owns, but requires a permit regardless of the time of day. That's just a suggestion. I'm not suggesting we do that, particularly it's not our building, but there's a thought there.
Okay. Hey, Mr. Whiters, in your listening to this, have you recorded it, or since you said that the officers ride by, tell them to turn it down, then it goes, and once they leave, it goes back up?
I have recorded it. Yeah, I have video.
Have you shared it with the officer?
I remember, I shared it with Mr. Moore through email last summer.
I mean, probably that would probably have been a start to maybe show the officer so that he can know what he's dealing with.
I invite him into my home. I invite him into my home. He wouldn't come in.
I understand
that. If they don't see the car, they're welcome to come in and watch the rattles dance, the blinds dance, you know.
Okay.
Well, we'll try a few things and let us know if it improves or doesn't improve.
I will let you know the good. Yes, sir. Sure
Thank
will.
you.
Thank you for hearing me. Thank you.
Okay, our next person is Miss Valerie Tyson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I stand before you guys tonight to say thank you. Thank you for allowing my family to honor our cousin, our nephew, and our brother, Ronnie Cox, on behalf of the space dedication to be given on Saturday, February the 16th at 3 p.m. at the Winterville Library. I am a little jittery because I'm still a little emotional, but I did want to come and personally say thank you. And that's it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Ronnie and I went to school together from kindergarten just about right on up.
And
He'd swing by and see me every now and then at the driving school.
I wanted us to recognize the owner of Awesome Radio that's here with us tonight. So
He's going to be speaking to us in just a second.
Okay then. Okay. Excuse me. I didn't see that page. Okay.
She's the owner, not you.
Okay.
She,
That's the owner.
I'm sorry. I thought you were.
He's an employee.
Oh, okay.
Well, he takes a lot of pride in it. Okay, our next speaker is Brad Guff. Did I pronounce that right? Am I out of order? We're out of order. Give me 1 second.
Try
So
to
you-
take them in the manner with which they signed up.
Glenn Johnson is next.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brad. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Smith, Honorable Town Manager Ms. Terry Parker, and the Honorable Councilwoman Robertson. You took the words out of my mouth. I would like to give recognition to my boss lady, the owner of Awesome Radio, Miss Akila Thigpen, 106.9 FM. So I'm going to be brief as I expressed my briefness to Councilman Moy. I told him I was going to be brief already. I spoke enough. I just want to share my experience with you for attending the Grifton Town Council meeting Tuesday, February the 5th. And it was very delightful, I must say. When the mayor got to a question on the agenda, which was related to some tractor that's going to be purchased from the town of Winterville, that wasn't what excited me. What excited me was what came out of the mayor's mouth after that, when he spoke so very highly of the entire Winterville Town Council and all of its members. And all the council people in attendance that evening all agreed in unison, all at the same time. I was like, that what made me so very happy, because everybody knows how happy and excited I am to be a citizen of North Carolina, in particular Eastern North Carolina, and to be doing something currently that I've enjoyed for a long time, but now enjoy even more, and that's been on the radio. You see, this is my last remark. You see, when a dad calls a radio station and says he turned to Awesome Radio 106.9 and his 5-year-old son was in the car with him, and when he heard my voice, he said, "Oh, Dad, that's Glenn Johnson on the Glenn Johnson Show." You don't know how happy and proud I was for a 5-year-old. So I just want to thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you, and you guys are doing a tremendous job, and I love each and every one of you. Also, I want to thank Chief Wellhite for always attending the police report show, and yet we're going to get Chief Moore to represent the fire department. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, thank you for once again being our biggest cheerleader. We appreciate that.
Both chiefs, they enjoy being on the radio, so
They
you
do,
get
a
them as
lot.
many times as you need them.
Yes. See what we can do.
Okay, Mr. Guth, we're ready for you. Did I pronounce that correctly?
No, my name is, I'm Brad Guth, like Ruth, that with a G.
Thank you.
But you can call me Broker Brad, because a lot of people always have my last name, gives them trouble. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all this evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I'm here on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, or just as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, to share with you a couple very positive things that have happened recently for the Chamber and some new initiatives that we have. We've started a Chamber Champion promotion that's going to be promoting local businesses on our Facebook page. We started that this week, and it's going to be a regular promotion to highlight businesses in Winterville for our community. We're starting a Business Milestone Award, and this is a program where we're going to recognize Winterville businesses on 5-year anniversaries. So, for example, if you have been in business for 5 years, you'll get a Business Milestone Award from the Chamber of Commerce. If you've been in business for 10 years, 15, 20, 25, on up to 50, 60, however long you've been in business. And we'll do that on an annual basis. And then finally, I wanted to talk just briefly about a leads group that we're starting. And this is going to be a group of folks that local businesses, business owners that are going to get together and share leads and promote each other to each other, so that we can expand our own individual businesses. And we're starting that initiative coming up next week. Is our first meeting on Wednesday. And certainly invite any of you that would like to come to that meeting to come. And then finally, I wanted to mention another great thing about the Chamber is we had a new grand opening tonight. A couple of you were there. Saul Horwitz at State Farm is on Old Tar Road now, and he's become a new member of the Chamber, a new member of the Winterville community. So we'll do whatever we can do to promote him and his business in Winterville. And then we're going to, of course, we're going to have our reception at Mill and Main this Friday. I'm sure Debbie has given you the information about that, and hopefully you all can attend that. And speaking of Debbie, I just wanted to give her a shout out. We've got 8 new members of the Chamber this month. So Debbie's been doing a great job of recruiting folks to the Chamber, and we look forward to seeing that number and more in the coming months. So, but again, I'm Brad Guth, and I'm the Chamber Director, or Chamber President, excuse me. And I have a local small business here. I'm a broker with Coldwell Banker, Coastal Rivers Realty, affiliated with them. So, thank you for the time to let me share.
I was at that opening tonight, got to know you, know that he has a background in economic development, so that'll be really good for our chamber. Also, I talked to the owners of the State Farm Agency, and I asked them about how did they come to know about our community, and why did they choose to locate here. And the thing that they told me was that they located here because of the friendliness of the community. And so it shows that you never know who you're seeing wherever you are, and that we got to show people, keep showing that we're a slice of a good life. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Also, Brad is also one of our planning board members for Pitt County, along with Tucker Moore. So glad to see both of them here at our meeting tonight.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
When I was reading through one of these items, I think it was number 7, I saw where this group was gonna use, let me think of the name of the group, but a group that's working on the Volker and their work. And that kind of sent up a little flag with me, because we've had so much trouble with Boyd Street, and Volker is part of that. And I noticed Saturday, if you noticed, they were still working on the street, the section there at the intersection of Railroad and Boyd. That's about the 3rd or 4th time that they've dug up that section. But this time, S.T. Wooten was out there working.
Yes, ma'am. They dug it up the first time to lay the sewer. They dug it up the second time to fix it because they didn't lay it right, and we made them dig it back up and fix it. And then this weekend, they were just doing the asphalt patch, but unfortunately, it's not up to par either, and we're gonna make them take that up and redo it as
It
well.
looked like they had dug down there, and I noticed that all of a sudden, it wasn't Volker doing it, it was.
No, Volkert, all they're doing is they have one inspector out there. There's actually 2 inspectors on that job working for DOT. One is from Volkert, one is from SEPI. So Volkert is not actually they're not doing any work. They're just out there inspecting the work that the contractor is doing.
Okay.
And who is that contractor?
S.T. Wooten.
Wooten is the contractor?
S.T. Wooten is the prime contractor on that job. And they're the ones that do all the work, or they're subcontractors. But Volkert is an engineering firm, and they're just providing a professional service to inspect the work that the contractor is doing on behalf of DOT.
At the end of this paving, maybe we should give them an evaluation since the DOT. Please don't use these same contractors. It's not fair to the residents. That's unfair a year.
I hear that sentiment about every day from people, and it's not just people that live on Boyd Street. It's just that street. I think you'd be surprised how many people go down that street every day.
Well, it's inconvenienced a lot of people in the community by being, torn up, especially the old section, of it torn up.
But they're getting close. I don't want to speak out of turn, but on the first phase, between Mill Street and Highway 11, they got the curb down, they got about half the sidewalk down. They've been having it. This is the worst time of the year to be building a road, but they're trying to work through it. They've had to undercut a lot, but cross my fingers. I went out. I try to go out there every day and just see what's going on.
Are they being penalized each day now because it's so long?
That's a contract discussion that DOT and them would have to have. We're not involved in that.
But if they'd worked every day this summer, then they'd be further along.
But they are out there working now, and hopefully they'll get some paving done on that first phase, hopefully in the next week or 2 if the weather would cooperate.
Looks like a good product. It looks really good.
I think the finished product will be worth it, and maybe 6 months after it, maybe everybody forget the trouble that.
Okay, moving on to old business. Resolution authorizing amendment to the existing contract for creation of Parks and Recreation CIP plan, CIP.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. As you might recall, Kimley Horn is currently working with the town, or contracted by the town, to serve as the consultant for the town's Greenway Master Plan, Fork Salem Canal Greenway planning effort, and part of application. Parks and Recreation does not currently have a capital improvement plan, though that is something that we really should have, especially when you're looking at pursuing grants. Many of them, like for you don't necessarily have to have, but there are points available for those entities that do have a capital improvement plan. It also serves as a guideline, along with all of our other planning documents, for budgeting and planning for the future growth of Parks and Recreation in the town and costs associated. That being said, again, so Kimley Horn is working with us. They've become familiar with much of the town operations, departmental functions, features, etc. We had talked to them to see if they would have an interest in completing a CIP. They said that they certainly would. And you see in your information a resolution authorizing approval of the contract and the contract itself. That fee not to exceed, or maximum, whichever way you want to refer to it, at $13,350.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion for that?
So move.
Got a motion, I hear a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the 2017 Street Improvements Project.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This is under old business. This is we got all the work completed for the street improvements project, and as we discussed back in August or September maybe, we added Vernon Avenue. We ended up having to undercut the entire road. It was in terrible shape. Put new rock, put new asphalt, replace curb and gutter as necessary. We did all that. We added a little bit of extra patching the week before last and some curb and gutter on some sinkholes that have been repaired throughout town. One of them right here on the north end of Town Hall. When we got everything done, as we discussed in the prior meeting, we were going to use the contingency funds and then whatever funding was necessary from this fiscal year's budget to cover this additional cost. And so now we know the exact cost. This change order just marries up all the quantities in the contract with what was actually installed. There's some reductions, some increases. One thing I did want to note that we reduced Chapman Street between Boyd Street and the pump station. We were going to try to do some work on that this year, but due to the DOT project and the Chapman Street culvert replacement project, we decided that it would be better to wait so that, they're tracking a lot of heavy equipment up and down that road, and we didn't want to spend all that money and then it get tore up.
Can you at least clean it? Can you at least clean that street?
We send a street sweeper down it. The street sweeper is not going to clean up like thick mud, but it'll clean up, the lighter stuff. And I try to get I call the inspectors regularly on the Boyd Street project and ask them to get the contractor, because that's technically his responsibility to keep that road
Probably
clean.
the dirtiest street in town.
Yes, sir. And I harp on them to keep that road clean, that and Grimes, and now Myrtle Street's getting kind of dirty, but that's their responsibility, and I've tried to keep on them. We have sent our street sweeper over there as well. But this change order, the majority of the money was already allocated as contingency. There's about $15,000 extra that'll come from this year's approved budget.
Move for approval.
Got a motion approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business. Approval of task order 25 with the Wooten Company for the Winterville Manual on Standard Designs and Details update.
So our manual of standard designs and details includes our design criteria for streets, stormwater, drainage, sanitary sewer, water, all of our infrastructure, concrete, sidewalks, curb and gutter. And it was adopted in 2001 and put into place January 1st, 2002. We do not have, all I have is a PDF, and it's like a typewriter. It's very old. The details are barely legible. A lot of the specifications need to be updated. So we budgeted $50,000 in the current fiscal year, and it was approved. And the town's consultant engineer, the Wooten Company, has agreed to do the work for a ceiling fee of $40,000. We'll get a new one-book product that we can put online so developers, engineers, contractors all over the country can pull it up and look at it, or if they're having a conversation with me, they know what we expect, what we're looking for when they build these new subdivisions or do work for the town. And I'll be able to go in there in the future and edit these things, or myself or someone else with the town could go in there and edit these things without having to pay an engineer. This is something that we need, especially as development ramps up in town. It just makes it easier for me to go out in the field and enforce the town's policies.
Just as an aside, Travis and I have talked to other engineering firms about potential prices for such a project, and it's a lot more than $40,000. So I think this is certainly a good deal based on the fact that Wooten does our consultant engineering currently.
I budgeted 50, but that was just for the streets and stormwater. So,
Right.
because we had, when I first started here, we knew that needed to be done, but we didn't think we had the money. A gentleman told us $100,000 to do it. And that was I've been here almost 6 years, believe it or not.
Time flies.
So this document would entail what we want them to do as far as recreation.
No, ma'am, this is only Public Works.
Recreation fee.
So,
but
that's going to be in the zoning ordinance?
zoning on
Or where's the recreation fee?
That's subdivision.
Subdivision ordinance, yeah.
it. Okay.
This is just for the actual, well, it's for the engineer where he designs the streets, minimum
then
grade,
My
things of that
concern
nature.
is the curb.
Okay, that will
And
be
goes.
added in the design manual. This is what we're
Okay.
talking, this is the place that kind of thing goes.
Yeah, like we talked about roll curb in the
Yeah.
Eli's Ridge subdivision. That's one of the things I have on my list to add to that manual is the detail of roll curb. And if you're going to use roll curb, these are the dimensions that has to be,
Okay.
the thickness, what type of concrete, things like that.
Currently, there's nothing but a form of a document that technically you can write in the margins. It's just not, 2001 and 2, that's a long time ago. We need an updated version that as we add things to it, we're capable of being able to put that in the document itself.
These were some concerns that came up lately on the board about the recreation fee and stuff. And also, we had that discussion about our curbing. Would it be the round curbing or the slanted curbing?
Right.
That's the way it looks. I call them that. To me, I know you all have different
No.
technical names for them.
And
There's
that-
roll curb and standard curb, and right now our manual only has standard curb, and it's my intent to put both options in there and have a detail in there.
Correct.
If we get some though we don't like it, I have the ability to take it out.
Okay.
That's definitely one of the more important documents that we need updating, and we need updating as soon as possible, particularly with all this development that's coming.
Okay, we need a motion to approve this task order.
So move.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the appointment to the Recreation Advisory Board.
Hello again, I feel like I just saw you. We currently have 2 non-resident positions vacant on the Recreation Advisory Board. We have 1 application that the town has received. That individual does meet the criteria to serve on the Recreation Advisory Board as a non-resident. The individual that applied, the name is Dr. Alexis Davis. And again, that individual does meet the requirements for the non-resident membership position on the Recreation Advisory Board.
When you say non-resident, that person has to reside where?
So the person, for non-resident is outside of the town limits, but that they live or reside within the township.
Which could be the city of Greenville,
Yes, that's correct.
Hooker Road, behind the old Walmart.
And we have had that a number of times before, at least twice that I know of.
Do
Darren
we-
Carmen was seeking a seat on your board.
Who?
Darren Carmen, the pastor of Reveal.
Oh, yes, ma'am, yep.
Together, and he was told he couldn't be on the board because he was 2 miles out.
I'm not sure. I never spoke with that individual. I'm not certain.
Well, I was going to ask Terry, listening to what Councilman Moore said, it can be as far as in,
The township is a term, I assume
Right.
that's been the criteria since the board was created.
Right. do we
A
need to?
suggestion may be a look at whether township is still
Right.
appropriate because of all of the development and what's now encompassed in the township versus whether it's ETJ or a certain,
That's
mileage.
that was my next comment was to King, if maybe we may need to look at the language of that, change the
Sure.
language of that, whatever, so we, it don't go that far, but can accomplish just all ETJ versus.
I agree with Terry. The term township in the legal field was something that was really important 50, 60,
Right.
70 years ago.
Right.
We've moved beyond that. They still have them. You can look at county maps and see
Yeah.
the townships, but they're just not really relevant anymore. Probably need to find a jurisdiction that's a little closer to home than maybe something that far out.
And that's, I know about the appointment, so my thing is, do we need to revamp that first and then maybe look back at the appointment? I'm just asking that question,
I think staff suggestion would be, I don't know about Pastor Carmen, and Amy, do we have a, for Recreation Advisory Board? We'll double check. We have two positions that are non-resident positions, but I would suggest, since we do have one before you tonight and the terminology is what it is, that council act on the application.
I'm making a motion that we table it until we get it right and go from there. Because
His motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this until we reword.
Where does she live?
Is that appropriate?
Revise.
Revise the wording.
Sterling
of
Point
this.
Drive.
Okay, Dr. Davis, just for discussion purposes, lives in Sterling Point, so
Yep.
that's probably going to be close to something that you all would, we have accepted or added people from that area. in
We
the
have.
past, But certainly that, the motion's on the table and seconded to.
And if I may as well, we do currently have one non-resident that is an active member on the Recreation Advisory Board. So the Recreation Advisory Board consists of 6 residents and 3 non-residents. So if we do want to look at changing the ordinance, I'm not sure, I guess they'll use the term grandfather for that member that is currently existing.
I think that would.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
One question I have, how many applicants did you have? Just, he was the only one?
That was the only one I received, yes.
Hi.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to table this. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
Next up, the approval of sale of the 1988 tractor to the town of Grifton.
I don't know.
Sale?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to move forward. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Question, do everybody know? I mean, the ones out here.
We are selling a tractor to the town of Grifton. You want to
Elaborate.
expand on that any?
I think they need to be elaborate just a little bit, just to bring them up to date on is what we are doing, what you're speaking
It's a 1988, so it's a 30-year-old tractor. It has served us well.
I was in high school in '88. That's a good running tractor. If it's,
It is a
if it's
good running
still
tractor.
working.
You running that good?
But we've tried to start spending a little bit of money on it, just like anything that's 30 years old. When I turned 30, started costing myself some money. But we bought a new tractor this year with a cab on it and air conditioned. It's the first one we've got like that we can bush hog with. We can use the brush for snow and all that good stuff. And the guys really appreciate it. But
How much are we getting for it?
$4,500.
Well, we are getting a steal then if we're getting $4,500
We probably paid less than
for a
that
tractor.
for it. I imagine that's about
For
what
a
we paid for
1988
it
tractor.
30 years ago. But it's just time to get rid of it. I like to get rid of stuff if we replace it with new stuff instead of spending money maintaining it. So I feel like it's the fiscally responsible thing to do. Grifton inquired about it. They need it. They're paying somebody to do a lot of their bush hogging and things like that. So it's an easy way for us to get rid of it.
Well, let's don't blow the deal. We already.
Okay, moving on.
No, you got to vote on it.
No, did we vote?
I had a question on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can go ahead and vote on it.
Okay. We had a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. I think we did that, but
Oh, I missed that part.
that's okay. Moving on, clarification of the speed limit ordinance on Mill Street, Church Street, and Reedy Branch Road. Are you handling that too?
I am.
It's Travis's show.
All right.
He's still here.
Travis, yeah.
This is a little bit more elaborate. It's probably going to take a little bit longer. And what I would suggest, there's multiple ordinances, multiple streets, multiple speed limits that we need to discuss. So I think my suggestion would be to go through them one at a time and approve each individually. Number one, so that I can keep note of it and inform DOT of the results. Also, so if you have any questions about each one individually, we can ask those. And then if there's questions about any other streets or anything like that, I would ask that we talk about those at the end, just so we don't get confused.
Travis, you're going to get,
We will follow your directions.
you're going to give a little intro and while we're discussing.
Yes,
it and
ma'am.
all. Okay, thanks.
I'm just doing my public comment speech first.
Gotcha.
This was brought about when I contacted DOT last year about the posting the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit sign at Reedy Branch and Mill Street that Councilman Moore had requested. I hadn't forgotten about that, and every time I talk with a gentleman at DOT, I remind him, I nudge him, I ask him, hey, have we got any update on that? And then out of the blue one day, a couple weeks ago, he emailed me and said, here you go. And so I took a look at it, and it was a lot more in depth than what I was expecting. So basically, I don't think when the town annexes a DOT street, the speed limit is automatically reduced to 35 miles an hour unless the town and Department of Transportation both adopt ordinances to adopt a higher and or lower speed limit on that street. So it appears that it's been quite a bit of time since any cleanup of the speed limits in newly adopted town streets has been enacted. So what we're trying to do is clean up all these streets that it has not been cleaned up on. And some of these are changing. Some of these speed limits are already 35 and they're asking to modify those. Some of them are 35 but are not posted, and everybody's acting like they're 55 because they're really county roads out, you know, they're not in town per se. And I would have to say, you know, the police probably aren't enforcing a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit if it's not posted as such. So the first ordinance, and I'll show these to you on the map as well, the existing ordinance on Mill Street, north of Worthington Street. I believe the old town limits were a few hundred feet south of Vernon White Road. So the old ordinance showed 45 miles an hour from a point south of Vernon White Road to Worthington Street, at which point it decreases to 35 miles an hour. So this is a pretty simple one here. They're just going to simply revise the ordinance or adopt a new ordinance that runs the 45 all the way out to Highway 11. And that's how it's signed currently. You get the 45 miles an hour when you get to just past Worthington Street, and everyone operates at that same speed all the way out.
We don't have any signage change here. This is an ordinance change.
That's right.
On this particular one.
That's right. It's just extending the limits from the old town limits, extending the limits of the 45-mile-an-hour zone from the old town limits south of Vernon White all the way up to Highway 11.
Okay, let's get a vote on that one. How about that?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion to approve that?
So move.
Have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any
Question.
discussion?
Question. Do that again, please. You said we're gonna make it 45 from,
Worthington Street on Mill Street to all the way to Highway 11.
you all are aware of that big bottleneck we got right there several times during the day getting on Highway 11.
Yeah, it's 45 now.
Yeah, but isn't that
Not 45
also,
from Worthington Street.
also up
Yes,
up
the
to
sign
here,
is past
they're gonna be
Worthington.
changing that, correct? Isn't that part of the change? Isn't that part of the change up there at the Vernon White that is gonna parallel across to Davenport? And
Eventually, they're gonna,
I'm not aware of it.
supposed to be eventually.
Not in mine, your lifetime.
No.
okay, I thought I kind of heard it's gonna
Through the grapevine?
through the grapevine.
Yeah, we don't have, I don't know that we have anything
I
official.
have not. I know on the other end on Old Tar, they're going to realign it with
Tar
Tavern.
and Tavern, yeah.
I thought it was gonna be
I mean,
aligned up
yeah.
here too.
I thought at one time they said they were gonna study that, see if they could improve that intersection
Terrible.
because
Yeah.
of the fact that traffic is backed up there. But you're saying just somewhere along there to Vernon White Road.
Well,
Right.
the speed limit, the ordinance would read, and I can read you the exact ordinance, but basically it goes from wherever the 45 starts on Mill Street, which is around Worthington Street and Pinewood Village right here. It's signed that way all the way out right now, and it would just repeal the old ordinance which stopped about the mini storage and go ahead and extend it all the way out to Highway 11. So technically right now, it's 45 for a few hundred feet, and even though it's not signed, it's 35 miles an hour from there to Highway 11.
This is making the ordinance match the signage as it currently exists.
Correct, and match the new town, the town annexed the
Correct.
remaining portion of that road after this ordinance
That's
was
right.
adopted.
I just travel along there so much, and I see traffic along there with Pinewood, people coming out from the Waterford development. It's just a lot of traffic on that little stretch of road.
And I think the thing is, people are already driving 45 miles an hour.
Correct, because when you get to Worthington Street or just past it, you've got that 45 mile per hour speed limit sign, and people increase their speed.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, next one.
The next one. In 1997, the town adopted an ordinance on Mill Street 750 feet north and 750 feet south of Main Street of a 25 mile per hour speed limit. Terry and I discussed this. We think that's back when it was just a blinking light downtown. Nothing that we can find or DOT can find shows that it was ever signed that way. So technically it's been functioning as a 35 mile per hour zone this entire time. DOT recommends that we just repeal the 25 mile per hour zone and carry the 35 mile per hour zone all the way through.
It didn't seem to make as much sense had it been a signalized
Intersection.
intersection.
We took the signal down back in the 70s and put it back in, I think, 96, 97.
Well, I was wondering, because it would make sense if it's just a caution light to slow it down through
And
there.
is there any 25 signage?
No, there's no signs.
Never been signed.
So it's operating as a 35 mile per hour.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, next one.
All right, we're going to keep going down Mill Street to the other side of Liberty Street, down to just south of the South Ridge subdivision.
Will you say that again, Travis?
Yeah, I'm going to point out. So here's Laurie Ellis Road, Roberts Company. Here is Liberty Street right there. It's hard to see way up there. And just south of Liberty right now is where the 35 turns to 45 miles an hour. That will not change, but currently it becomes 55 just south of Laurie Ellis Road, and DOT recommends extending that 45 all the way south of Emily Drive at South Ridge subdivision, and then south of South Ridge. I know it doesn't, this seems like a double negative, but 175 linear feet south of Emily Drive, that sounds better, it would revert back to 55 miles an hour. So basically we're extending that 45 from Laurie Ellis all the way down to South Ridge. Then after you pass.
It started that way, isn't it?
Not by ordinance, I don't think.
But by signage it is. Sign's already there from the military base.
I think it is as well, but like I said, this is going to clean the ordinance up to match the signage.
This is on Mill.
Mill.
Extending that 45 on Mill out.
It's the same thing we have now.
behind Emily
There's
Drive.
the National Guard Armory right there. Here's South Ridge, Emily Drive.
I got you.
So like I said, by ordinance at Laurie Ellis Road, it becomes 55 miles an hour. He's going to extend the 45 all the way down to just the other side of Emily Drive, about where the 24 Restore place is.
Potentially additional signage to reflect that?
Yes, I'm assuming he's going to update all the signage.
I think they probably, you said add an additional,
Updating, adding additional.
There's a 45 right from the military base. Anyway,
So he'll probably just take that and move it down a couple hundred feet.
That's all.
Well, or move it up and then put
it
a
up.
55 in at south of Emily Drive.
I think as Wintergreen Commons develops, that'll be even more important, that it's posted as such as you're traveling out of
Move
town.
approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second in discussion. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any more, Travis?
Yes, we're not even halfway done.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I was just rushing. Tar Heels are playing. I didn't mean to do that.
That's all right. Okay. The next one, we're gonna move over to Church Street on the south side of town, out by Reedy Branch Road.
Or what we dub as Church Street Extension.
Yes, ma'am. So here's Reedy Branch Road. Here's the end of Church Street. Here's the pump station down there on Church Street. So this ordinance, again, is just, this road is operating as a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit already. That's how it's signed. People assume it's a country road, even though technically we have annexed it in. So DOT proposes to sign it and enforce it as a 55-mile-an-hour zone from Reedy Branch Road to a point approximately 1,700 linear feet south of Laurie Ellis Road, which is going to be right around the operations center. Right in this.
Road does not need to be 55
No,
miles
it
an hour.
sure do not. No. Go ahead. No, and I'll tell you my reason.
Just
why,
making a
too.
comment.
Well, the reason why I said it was because I went by there this past weekend and just looking, and the development that we have going on there, we already see that there is good potential of growth there.
That's right.
And we do not need to have, we want to receive them safely.
I understand.
Not in
And
a,
just
not,
understand,
not
I'm just
in a
reporting what
situation
DOT
where that you're
recommended.
going to scare them away.
That's right.
You know,
Well, we currently
welcome them.
we have development underway, so,
Plus, we have the
Shriners.
Shriners. There's
That's
Brookstone.
Can we go back to them and suggest that it be
All the way 45.
45?
It's a good move.
Let me talk about the next one, and then we'll try to maybe marry these up two together.
All right.
So right now, currently, across from the op center, it becomes 35, and from there all the way to Reedy, Laurie Ellis is 35. The DOT is proposing to increase that to 45 miles an hour.
Okay.
so that's from the op center to the stop sign at
So
Laurie
the-
Ellis.
Correct. So the two options would be either A, if council was in disagreement with the 55 but liked the 45 and was in agreement with the 45 instead of the 35, we could do one ordinance from Laurie Ellis all the way to Reedy Branch at 45 miles an hour.
Well, I mean, I think 45's too fast between the daycare all the way down to the Shriners. And that road's just,
Okay,
it's gonna be
so,
busy.
and I asked this question as soon as he sent me this email. If we do not want to increase the speed limit from Laurie Ellis to the operations center, we simply do not adopt this ordinance number 5, was ordinance 107-4828, which proposes to increase it from 35 to 45.
So then the 55 mile an hour
We still need to address that.
would technically, council, I think, would like to see it 45 from Reedy Branch to the point where it
Goes to
turns
35. So if council
Or
would,
moving it back to the Shriners, 35 from Laurie Ellis to the Shriners, and then 45 from there to Reedy Branch
so
Road.
Park Road.
Yes.
And I
Park
would
Road.
likely,
Which would make sense.
I would think that we can adopt ordinance tonight stating such, and then DOT, if he's in agreement, can modify his proposed ordinance to his board.
We need a motion?
Say what you said again, Mark, please.
The motion, I can make that motion.
I want, but make it.
Okay.
You're gonna-
The motion is to extend it 35 all the way up from Laurie Ellis up to Park Street.
Park.
And then from Park Street on out, make it 45.
Good move. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
So just for clarification, we will then consider this an adopted ordinance that we will forward to DOT to ask for their approval thereof. Okay.
Exactly.
And I believe they have to adopt it as well for it to be formal. But technically, it's currently 35 the whole way, even though it's not signed and enforced that way. Let's take a couple notes, and we got a couple more. I just want to make sure we get everything right.
Well, while you're doing that and we're talking about speed limits, I would also like to bring up that this board send something to DOT in reference to Laurie Ellis Road. And everybody, I think, knows about where I live. That's 55 miles an hour just past my driveway, and then it drops down to 45. We got Mellon Downs, which is a huge neighborhood, and then we've got the other neighborhoods, Carroll Crossing, further down, and then next to me on the other side, we've got a new subdivision coming in, the last phase, I think, of Brookfield. We've got cars that are traveling that road, and they get just about up to Mellon Downs or in front of my house. They're running 60 or 65 miles an hour. It's taking them to Ames Street or further to slow down. I think we need to ask the DOT from Old Tar Road, from where you make a right on the Laurie Ellis, for that to be 45 up until the town limits, and then I think it needs to change to 35 because of the traffic that's on that road. And then you've got all the homes past Ames that have driveways, and people are pulling in and out of those driveways. That road's going to get busier.
That's right.
When the
Laurie
extension
Ellis
is opened. So
I would suggest the council to vote on it, and make a motion to vote on it, and I'll carry it to
We'll
DOT
include
and
it in the,
as a request.
I'll make that motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion that we send a formal letter to DOT requesting change in the speed limit on Laurie Ellis from Old Tar back down
to the city limits.
To the city limits.
45, and then from the city limits in, 35.
Yes.
It's now 45.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
So,
you.
45 miles an hour from Laurie Ellis from Old Tar to the city limits by Mellon Downs.
and then 35 to,
Then 35 miles per hour on Laurie Ellis all the way to Mill Street,
Yeah.
or all the way to Highway 11.
I'm fine with Mill Street. That's going to be a bigger road when you get down to the extension. They're probably not going to like that anyway, so probably won't matter.
we have asked previously, and were turned down, but again, a lot of development is happening out there.
I mean, the
so-
last time we asked was a long time ago.
Yeah, the geography has definitely.
And we have a lot of homes and a lot of traffic on that road now.
All right. The next one is Reedy Branch Road from a point 900 feet east of Church Street up to Mill Street. So this is going to be back down there at the end of Church Street extension. Here's Church Street right here. Here's Mill Street. Here's Reedy Branch Road. So this will basically be from around, I believe that's Ernest Lofton Road, all the way to Mill Street, adopting a speed limit of 55 miles an hour.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a
When
second?
that curve will be 55 miles
Yes,
per
ma'am.
hour.
And it currently, technically 35, but it operates as
You are-
55.
Okay,
You
okay.
taking your,
Okay.
You are, yeah.
I believe they've got the
The signage.
cautionary,
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah,
the
they
yellow
do.
signage in there.
Okay, we got a
Okay.
motion and a second.
Mind
Any,
that curve now.
any further discussion? All those in favor, let me say an aye.
aye.
Okay.
You better join
Motion
that.
approved.
Go that curve.
Got any more?
One more.
One more.
One more.
The last ordinance is on Reedy Branch Road from Mill Street all the way to Highway 11. So this is Mill Street, Reedy Branch, and from here all the way around the curve up past the Moose Lodge, past South Ridge, so it's intersection with Winterville Parkway. DOT recommends a speed limit of 50 miles an hour.
They've already changed it, so
50.
already.
50.
They've already put the signs up?
They watched the 45 on there.
Uh,
That curve, Mr. Gainey, long they happened. Because the mailboxes were knocked out. He was on TV.
Oh, okay. And it floods down in that area too.
Yeah, I move for approval.
Water across
I'm
the
happy
road.
with that.
They got a motion for approval. Here's a
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. All right. You don't have any more? You
I
sure
do
you can't
not.
come up with one more?
I can't, I mean,
Probably come up with one more.
Thank you, Travis.
I'll report back, I'll speak with DOT about this, and if they need anything else from us on these additional streets, I'll report back.
Okay, thank you.
Travis.
Thank you.
Travis, what's the speed limit in front of the Kiwanis building?
Kiwanis building. On 4 lines?
Yep. No signage at all.
It's probably 55 then.
It's in town.
Oh, if it's in town, it's 35. Is that in
Should
town?
be
It's a
35.
question mark. I get it all the time.
Should be 35,
80.
unless otherwise.
It's
posted.
always 35 if it's annexed in. If it's not, and it's not posted, it's 55.
But who knows what's next in? Does she have a
I
sign?
know, that's it, like, it'd be hard for them, in my opinion, to write a ticket if it wasn't signed properly.
Catch me as you can.
And we'll need to double check. Is that annexed in? They're not paying attention. We'll check.
I put them on
Thank
the
you.
sleeve.
Thank you, Travis.
All right, other agenda items.
I don't have any. Oh, I do have one. No, I don't have one of those.
You sure?
I'm sure. I have one of the
Okay.
next ones.
All righty. Moving on then, items for future agendas and work sessions.
In light of the fact that we do have an upcoming workshop with respect to electric rates, I think staff thinks that it would be pertinent to have a workshop on stormwater and the total subject of stormwater, and then we can certainly branch off and talk about specific issues. I would suggest we try to do that in March. We'd like to do it prior to really get into the budget conversation. So I don't know if you'd like to try to set a date tonight, or whether you'd like me to reach out to you.
But
via
you reach
email.
out.
Okay. So I will be
I didn't bring my
contacting you
calendar
all
book.
on regarding the stormwater workshop.
Stormwater including fees or just?
Well, certainly that can be part of the conversation. I think we want to really sit down and talk about some of the challenges we have that we reference in meetings, but we really haven't gotten to drill down into the specifics, if you will. So I think that's our plan, and certainly we can talk about what it's going to take to fund some of those things.
Okay.
Okay, any other future agenda items? All right, let's move on to the reports from department heads and the update on current projects.
Ben's not here.
Ben is home with the flu,
Oh, my.
so he apologizes for not
Let's
being
move
here,
forward
but
then.
we asked him to stay home.
Okay,
Let's move on.
who wants to start? Come on up again.
2 minutes.
As Travis is coming, I just wanted to let you all know, that we, staff burned down the house on Academy Street. In terms of minimum housing and code enforcement, we're continuing to enforce the cases we have on our list, and as the weather warms up and grass and other things start to grow, we'll have additional code enforcement items, but we are on top of that.
I'll go through the ones on the list. There's a couple others that I'll go through as well. Chapman Street culvert, not a whole lot's changed, still in the design phase. I met with the engineer last Friday. He has 90% plans. The structural plans are done. We figured out what we need as far as easements. He's going to get some maps prepared, and the town staff's going to work on getting those easements concurrently with the engineer working on getting permits. The permits we'll have to get will take a little while because we're working in a blue line stream and disturbing that area, so those can always take a little bit longer to get, but we're pushing forward that project. 2018 SRF sewer rehab project. I don't know if y'all have seen, but the contractor Tri-State Utilities has been in town Cameron and cleaning the sewer lines.
Early in the morning, 4 o'clock.
They did work in Main Street. They had to work overnight due to traffic, and they were going to try to finish that tonight. They had an emergency. They were going to finish it Thursday night, had to leave because of an out-of-state emergency. They're from Virginia. And then they called me this morning and said they're going to be here tonight. I was like, well, it's going to be kind of wet, but, go for it if you can do it. Might be good to find the leaks if you do it while it's really wet. They should, if they work tonight, they should be done completely by Wednesday. But the only nighttime work they're doing is in Main Street. We didn't want them working in residential areas. Church Street Pump Station rehab. We got quotes for the force main bore underneath the railroad tracks in Mill Street down there in the swamp. Those prices came back pretty good. The low bidder did anyway. Pretty much what we budgeted for. We've got to get one easement, and we're working through getting that. King's working on getting the title work done on that, and I'm working on getting the map to him to finish that up. We'll get that easement and then hopefully bring that contract to you guys for approval in March, and then try to push forward with that project in the spring when the sap's rising and it's drier back there in the woods. We don't want to do that right now. It's too wet. The dog holding pen at the public works shop, the guys completely rebuilt the entire thing with the exception of the actual fence down there. They demoed the old roof, built a whole new roof with a steeper pitch. So, you know, the old roof was basically just flat. It's been there for probably 30 years. We rebuilt it from scratch and then put new posts in the ground and everything. So that thing should last a long time. It's all salt treated wood.
Did we alert our concerned citizen?
We've been working and keeping in contact with Ms. Jameson, and she's been, I think, pleased with what we've accomplished. We'll update her with pictures on the latest improvements. They certainly look great. Not that there was really anything wrong with what we had, but nicer and newer is always appreciated.
It is, and the old roof, it might have been a couple drips, but there's no leaks in the new one at all, and we put a windscreen on the side to block the wind, that cold wind. We don't want to close it in, though, because you don't want to block all the wind, because in the summertime, the dogs will get hot in there. We want them to have some breeze. So we don't want to close it in fully, or it would be really hot in there.
She is currently offered to purchase some dome-type houses to put in the kennels. We're discussing whether they're feasible based off of the things we have to do, but she's certainly willing to pitch in and help. So we'll continue that dialogue.
Great. Thank you, Travis.
One more.
Okay. Sorry.
Downtown parking improvements. We've got the contracts from the contractor. Keener's reviewed those. Had a couple of minor comments. The contractor's addressing those. We've been trying to get in touch with the railroad for over a month to schedule that work because they have to be here when we do it. And we're continuing to try to get in touch with them and schedule that work as soon as possible. Sidewalk improvements projects. Keen has reviewed the contracts. Again, some very minor comments. Contractor's addressing those. We should get those back this week, and the mayor can execute, and we can have a pre-con and move forward within the next 30, 60 days, hopefully. That's another weather-dependent project. You don't want to do concrete in the wintertime, so.
Thank you, Travis. I wasn't trying to rush you. That last one wasn't on my list here. Robert?
As Robert comes forward, I'll take the Winterville Market Town Common Plan. Staff continues to work on that. We have a draft currently. We anticipate discussing that with you all during the budget process. It's looking good. That's the Winterville Market Town Common Plan.
Okay, gotcha.
Good evening. The first two projects talk about the Tar Road widening and the territorial agreement. We received a proposal from our engineers. What we thought it was left just a little to be desired, particularly in terms of specifics we want to drill down so that we could assign some values, both in terms of who was going to be doing what and how long they were going to be doing it. We just recently talked with them as recent as Friday and Saturday, and they have been working diligently. We received proposals from them Saturday. Well, we'll be reviewing those with Terry this week, I'm sorry. Also, something that you should, this weekend. Yeah, no rest for the weary. Also, in case you hadn't noticed, let me give a brief update last week on the LED lighting project. One way that you will now know you're a Winterville utility customer, electric utility customer. If your street light has a blue or a white glow, you are a Winterville electric utility customer. All the streets have been done that are on our system. We're now branching out in the backyards and the commercial businesses. So it's thanks to the board and your appropriation, we're now beginning to see the benefits of doing that. We'll continue that, probably have another year and a half before we hit completion on that in the backyards. That'll go much slower. We'll be climbing those poles.
It's looking good.
A lot of them.
We should be able to see compared to what we had to the new one also. We should be able to get some data behind that.
You know,
Or you
the
going to-
street lights aren't metered, but you figure on a savings of about 50% in terms of how much electricity they're using. We don't meter them, but we know that that's the savings on them. And that can be demonstrated, you know, if it were needed, but it's just a standard.
They are nice lights. Looks very,
Thank you very much.
professional.
I ran into your hard-working crew, and I thank them for their work.
They are wonderful guys. They do a lot of things, a lot of different days. This week, they're also working on some public buildings projects.
Wait a minute now. I want to make sure I understand. You say there's no way that you can measure the cost saving of going to this?
You figure that the spec for the LED lights, they use about 50% of what a standard street light uses.
Right.
An old high-pressure sodium light. You can meter it if you want to put an individual meter at each light.
That's the only way you can do it.
Yeah, yeah, you have to meter it to be able to tell what the energy consumption is on. You can calculate it based on what the ballast is in it and the voltage on it, but that's the only way you can do it.
I don't think we need a meter. I don't think we need a meter.
The cost would be incredibly steep to
It
do
would wipe
that.
out any savings.
Wipe out
we're
savings.
seeing.
It will for quite some time. Other than that's kind of catches us up on the projects we're working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Evan?
And he was just took the lead, Mark.
Thank you. I knew you were over there watching it. I could tell y'all were excited. You and Travis.
Hello again, everybody. Few things to update you upon. Fork Swamp Canal Greenway planning effort. Again, that is the townwide Greenway Master Plan and the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway Plan, townwide Greenway Master Plan. We are in the draft process of that. Hoping, if everything goes well, that we will have a final document in front of council at next month's meeting. Again, that is the townwide Greenway Master Plan. Then we've also got the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway planning effort, for which some of you attended the public meeting last week. Everything is going along well with that planning effort. I believe we are scheduled to receive 25% plans at the staff level later this month. Hillcrest basketball courts, that project was completed on Friday, this past Friday, February 8th. If anybody hasn't, I don't know if anybody has had the chance to go out and check them out, but they turned out very nicely. And if you have not seen them, I would certainly encourage you to go out there and check them out. That project, again, was resurfacing of the basketball courts and replacing the backboard and rims on all of those, which is 6 total. A multi-purpose facility, nothing really new to update there, aside from staff is still working behind the scenes, speaking with landowners, looking at properties and things of that nature. T-ball Pee-wee registration, that starts up here in 2 weeks, February 25th through March 13th is that. That is T-ball is 4 and 5-year-olds and Pee-wee is 5 and 6-year-olds. Our daddy-daughter dance is this Friday, the 15th, at the Cotton Barn from 6:30 to 9 p.m. We are jam-packed for that. We've got over 200 participants for that event. And that is all I've got for you.
But that's for the Greenway project.
Yes.
Send out some more questionnaires, did you?
So for that, what you might have seen, we've got the comment forms that are available on a few locations, town website, town social media, and some of the local news media outlets have also posted that as well.
Well, I think all the negative has stirred up the support of it. I've had more people contact me the last couple of days in support of the Greenway
We're starting to see some.
than all the negativity that is in the bless your hearts.
There was a positive bless your heart. I don't know if you saw that one or
Been two.
not. Yeah, oh, I missed the second.
But, most of the time, the negative normally outweighs the positive anyway, because people are more vocal when they're against something than they are if they're supportive of it. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Who am I missing?
Mr. Jones.
Brian, come on up. Hadn't seen you much tonight.
All right, so real quick, so as you are aware, we had one of our steering committee members resign. So I'm pleased to announce that Pastor Darren Carmen did accept Miss Veronica's, Miss Councilwoman Robertson's nomination. So he's going to be our new steering committee member. I'm excited about him. He For those of you who don't know, he's a pastor in the community, so he's got a fairly sizable congregation with his ear to the ground, as to say. So we're excited about him. So I did want to show you guys this. So this is our flyer we're going to be sending out for our public engagement series we're going to be doing in a couple weeks. The February 25th 6 to 8 meeting, if you're going to attend any meeting, that's the one to come to. So that's going to be our public visioning session. Basically, it's going to be a chance for the public to come in and actually see the maps of the town, actually put some ink down, give their ideas. Once that's done, we'll have our urban design specialists come in, take those ideas, and actually start giving them some draft visions and start getting into some plan development. So we're right on track with our schedule. We should start having actual draft of the plans sometime. Hopefully around May, we'll actually start seeing this thing form. So we're really into the thick of it right now. But I'm going to be sending this out to you guys, to all our advisory boards, to the chamber members. We're just going to be it's on our social media, so we're going to try to get as much public participation as we can. But that's all I got. Any questions?
Question for you and Terry. Basically, on the west side of town, of course, with the new bypass coming in, have we even thought about extending ETJ out that way to, because that's going to be the footprint of coming into Winterville. Might be something we might need to look at. I don't know.
I'll remind everyone, we currently have agreements in place that are annexation and utility agreements that are probably going to limit our ability to get out to the bypass. So I think our times may be best spent looking at what we have and making sure that it's as attractive and welcoming to folks coming in. I mean, because even though we may not can get out to the bypass, there'll be plenty of people that need to visit our town in our area for the things that we have located therein. So I know we're looking at some small corridor plans and some things to try to make our entrances into town and the things around that as attractive as possible.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask for the interest of that side.
No, it's a great question, and I think some of these agreements have been on the table a really long time, so it's good to remind folks that they exist. And yes, about that.
The right side of theirs, the left side of ours.
And I can get those back out to anyone who doesn't have them, but just let me know.
No man's land. Road.
That's right. We go down the center. No, just teasing.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Anybody else? Chief, y'all got anything? All right.
I will say for Chief Moore, he hadn't been feeling the best, so I'm going to speak for him if that's okay. We interviewed and been through a lot of process. I am happy to report we're hiring 13 full-time people, that all of the original conditional offers that we extended to those folks that met all of the criteria accepted. The majority of those folks start the 18th, and then we have a couple that'll trickle in afterward. We have some really qualified people who are coming from some really fantastic departments elsewhere, and we are excited about the opportunities that will come with that. Also, we are looking forward, hopefully, to having our new truck, one of our new trucks, early March, maybe?
Probably the
third week of March. So Chief will be headed to see it in person before too long and check it out, but we've got some exciting things coming where the fire department's concerned.
Y'all had a good team, I think, to help y'all with the interview process.
Yes, we did. We were fortunate we had 3 outside assessors come from other locations, and that's a process that we use routinely and are fortunate to have folks that are willing to come and help us kind of put on a multifaceted process that helps kind of bring the top candidates forward.
All right. Moving on to reports from the attorney.
Yes, sir. I have no report tonight. I do have a reminder we have a closed session for the purpose listed in your agenda. A couple matters. Don't think it'll take too long.
Okay.
Thank you.
No report.
Okay.
No report.
I'm gonna skip over you because we're gonna let you be last because Councilman doesn't like to be last every time. We're gonna make sure he's not last.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Moore. You're doing a fine job there, sir.
Thank you. I remember.
But I don't have anything to report.
Councilman Moy.
And save the last for the best, and the best do not have anything to report either.
Okay.
No more to say.
All right. Terry?
I just want to, I'm sorry. Just want to welcome and want to thank our youth for coming out. What is it, South Central? For coming out tonight and staying with us until 8:30. I hope that I hope you learned something that you can take back with you. And if you have any question, always can ask any of us, and we'd be more than glad to answer what we do know, and that we don't know, we would try to help finding out and give you the information.
They look
Okay?
ecstatic, they look excited.
Yes.
We didn't recognize our judge over there in the corner.
Exactly.
One of us doesn't always have one, so we're always glad to see Judge Hazelton with us.
Yes.
Also, Democratic Precinct meeting on the 13th at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And I apologize, Judge Hazelton. I didn't see you back there.
Yeah, that's our
She looks
judge.
like one of the
I was gonna
students.
say one in South Central
She
Street.
does. She does.
Exactly.
So, it's a compliment.
Do you want to do the announcements, or
I'll
you going to
do
do yours first?
That's all
Okay.
I have.
All right.
Quickly, we have Planning and Zoning Board meeting on the, Monday the 18th. We have a workshop on electric rates on the 18th. Planning Board's at 7. Our workshop starts at 6. It'll be held in the conference room next door. We have Board of Adjustment, the workshop's on Tuesday at 6. We have Board of Adjustment on Tuesday at 7. We have the Town and State Dinner, formerly known as Town Hall Day, on Wednesday, February 20th, from 2 to 7:30. I do think we have a couple folks attending. And then the Comprehensive Land Use meetings, Brian has already covered those in his presentation, and that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Do I hear a motion to close this and adjourn?
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night.
Go into closed session.
Closed session.
Closed session. I'm saying good night. Good night.
No, I know, I'm just saying, don't be leaving.
Drinking this water. Woo.
Better go.
All right.
Gotta go. Better move. Because I don't want you
Good
being my way.
job.
That's what you want to tell you. Go
I
ahead
was
on.
afraid I was gonna screw up all the whereases.
No, you did great. I will go through my part in here very quickly.
I gotta run to the restaurant.
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
You know, you not need this out.